Hi everyone, we're going to do our watch list by video this week. A couple of pairs we're going to have a look at and discuss. Perhaps we'll do a few more of these by video as the week progresses as well. So the pairs that I'm going to look at are the ones that I've dragged out here on the left. These are the pairs that I find the most interesting at this stage as the week progresses. A lot of the crosses and minors are really just very choppy. It's actually the majors that we're going to be focusing on today. So I'm going to start off by having a look at the Aussie. Now this is a pair that I wrote briefly about in the intro to this mail, and let me just zoom in a little bit here and I want to highlight why I don't really like this pin bar for a reversal. And the problem really for me is this area here, and it's the same zone of support and resistance. It's this whole sort of area here. It's everywhere from sort of 0.80 to about, I guess you could say 80.30, somewhere there, and I would consider that the same zone. Now if you back this chart up a bit, in fact, let's have a look at this area here. So you can see we had, look better on a line chart, you can see we had this bend over here, and you can see we obviously had a bit of a peak up here, right? But I would look at this level as more of a blow off top, and the reason why I think that this lower level that I've got drawn here is more important than, say, a higher level up here. Alright, I'm going to remove this one again, but the reason why I prefer this lower level here is we have this touch over here, we have this touch here too, and yes, we have this level that price sort of spikes up higher, but it just fades so hard, right? And that's why I tend to look at those as more blow-off tops and less important. And the other reason for that is you can see on the way down here, alright, look at how price came down. It was this lower level that it really turned at here before pushing up again and then broke all the way through. And even on the way down here, look at the retouch. The retouch of this wick was on this level here, and it also represents a nice sort of round number. I guess 81 is also fairly round here, but this 80 even number I think is the more important one of the two. And the reason why that sort of comes into play is what we see is price pushing up quite strongly, blasting through this zone here. Okay, you can see this is, if we zoom in here, this would have been last week Thursday's candle, and you can see how it's sort of sat, right? So there's Tuesday right up against the zone, Wednesday right up against the zone, and you could make a case for this whole week, sort of all of last week's candles pushing up against the zone. You could certainly make a case for that. But we finally see the breakthrough on Thursday, really strong close, right? That's telling you the price is definitely going higher. And then we kind of get this move on Friday, right? And price spikes all the way up, comes back down, closes right down here on the lows. And that's going to have a lot of traders looking at some sort of a reversal pin bar. All right, you can see obviously this is Monday's candle. It's quite late in the day on Monday as I record this. The London session is over. The American or US session is well into the afternoon. So we don't expect too much more to happen today. But what we can see is that, you know, price is certainly wicked lower. So if you had some sort of pending sell order here, below this low, you're definitely in. You've got about 100 pips of risk, and I guess you would target somewhere down here. So at least you've got a decent R, all right? You've got a 200 pip target, you've got 100 pips of risk, you know, and in that instance, that's really good. But my challenge with this trade is exactly where the zone is here. So if you switch to a line chart, you can sort of see the problem. Okay, and why I think this zone is really important. You can see all these bends here, and price, you know, how it sort of tested it and broke through. I think this zone is really, really important. So the problem with this pin bar in my mind is that I don't think it confirms the price is going to break any lower than this zone. You know, you could argue that we've got some sort of trend line support here. It's not that clean. I'm not going to worry too much about that. But the fact that the pin bar couldn't manage to close below this zone means that it's not really a great reversal signal for me. So I won't be taking that. What I would need to see to trade some sort of reversal is I need to see price break down below the zone, start closing below the zone, and then I will consider some sort of short. But I wouldn't be surprised if this really fantastic looking pin bar turns out to be nothing more than a bit of profit taking. Alright, on a Friday, which is quite typical. So just wanted to point that out. Really interesting setup. I'm not buying it. Alright, I may be proven wrong as the week progresses, but I'm not going to be buying it. The next market that I wanted to have a look at is actually the yen. Now the yen's been pretty tough to trade in my opinion. You know, we had this sort of reversal signal. We spoke about that a couple of weeks ago, and I said there was no ways I was going to take that. You know, this sort of downward pressure here was too strong, and it obviously spiked up, and then, you know, the low has been taken out since. So I'm pretty glad we didn't take that one there. What we have now is a bit of a messy area here. It's about a 40 pip area that I would really consider that to be the same kind of zone, right, with the same buyers and the same sellers are active. And I was actually quite interested in seeing what happened on the 4 hour here. We had a big move down here late last week, and I said, well, I think price is going to come back up to this area here and potentially print some sort of bearish reversal candle, giving us a really nice short. And you know, my preferred way of sort of defining trends is the very simple, you know, in this case we're looking at a downtrend, so the very simple concept of lower highs, all right, which we get, and lower lows, all right, the whole way down. That principle, has obviously been violated here. You know, we would have liked to have seen price rejected, so I waited for the retouch. It managed to close above that zone, which was a bit of a clue. All right, that was our first clue that it wasn't going to reverse here. But you know, had this next candle sort of wicked up and then come back down and close back down, you know, sort of below this trend line and rejected this level really strongly, I think we would have had a really nice trade down to here. But you can see that's not what's happening. All right, the dollar's off on a tear, or at least the yen is being sold off. I think that's much more sort of accurate at this stage. We see it on the pound yen in particular at the moment too. So this is one that I was watching, one that I wanted to comment on. I think we may still potentially see a reversal. You know, we've got a bit of minor support and resistance here, but we're really getting into a lot more sort of choppy area. So let's see what happens. Perhaps we're looking at a major reversal point in the pair actually. The next market I wanted to have a look at is actually the pound dollar. I think everyone can see pretty easily and quite quickly what it is that I'm interested here. So just quickly slapping on my levels, and I think we'll get the same kind of thing if I switch to a kind of a weekly chart, something like that. It's a bit of a messy level. But I'm looking at some sort of double top, right? Let's sit there. So I'm looking at some sort of sell here. Now, this little candle here, if this is how today's candle closes, and it may well, we don't have too much longer in the day, that's not good enough for me. I think we're very likely to see at least another spike up into this level and then potentially a short position. So I think we could be looking at a really nice double top up there, but we need to see a better test of the level. So I've got it drawn at 132.30, I guess you could call it. We need to see a better test of that level and certainly some bearish price action. You know, looking at a lower time frame, looking at the 4 hour, price isn't doing anything. All right, if you drop down to an hourly or perhaps a 15-minute chart, let's have a look on an M30 chart. M15, yeah, that really tells the story, right? Price is in one of these boxes, and it's just going to bounce around in that box until something kicks it out. So we really need to wait a little bit. It hasn't been too long. You know, price spent a couple of days up here and then it fell, but you had this wick high and then price fell. So I think there's going to be a bit of action at this point. Really could be a nice turning point in the market. So keen to watch that one. The dollar CAD. So I wanted to point this one out. Ignore this trend line. We don't need it at all. And I know a number of traders are quite keen on this bounce that we saw on Friday going along. I'm not going to be taking that. I guess it certainly could reverse, but you know, the challenge that I have, if I switch to a kind of a weekly chart, and you've got such a beautiful bounce down here, and you'll see the same thing on a daily chart. You know, look how price it kind of made its way down to this level. This was back in 2015, and if you don't think historical levels come into play, I'm quite happy to have that discussion with you. I firmly believe that they do, and you know, you can see here this buying impulse that happened here. Look at that, right? All the buyers coming in and they pushed price up, and when it made its way down there, right, there was this buying here, but it wasn't enough. Okay, it wasn't enough until you engaged this level of buyers at this point to reverse price. Okay, the buying here wasn't enough. The buying here wasn't enough. It was down at this level where we saw so much action that we pretty much knew that we were going to have to get there again, and that's what I think we're going to see here on the CAD. Price never made it there, right? We've got a 45 pip kind of miss, and I don't think we've really tested that level, so you won't be seeing me take a long. I'd like to see one or two things happen. Let's fix the scale. Potentially we might get some sort of short. The 1 hour won't do it actually. Maybe it's a bit early to tell, but maybe we're going to get some sort of channel here and another leg lower. I think that's probably quite likely. All right, so I don't know if I'd really want to trade that channel. It certainly is in the direction of the trend, but I guess it would depend on what sort of risk and reward you might get once you get the breakout. So I'm not too sure if I would be keen on trading that, but certainly no long position for me. I want to see a retest of this level. It's the 120, nice even level, nice round number. Okay, we haven't been down there for quite a while. That's great. I certainly think we're going to pick up some buying action over there. Finally, the last pair that I wanted to have a look at. So this is one that I've been watching for quite a while. And we were quite interested to see what happened at this level. This is basically the 0.91 level, and we had this candle print. Let me mark it here. We had this candle print, and you know, there was a bit of discussion in the groups about whether that was a bullish enough candle. And you know, on the 4 hour, I guess it was a little bit more interesting. You had this thing kind of print, and everyone was pretty gung-ho on that. It's a good reason why you should really only look at taking breakout orders, because if you set a buy stop above that, you never would have been triggered anyway. However, what I think we're seeing now is potentially more of a channel on this pair, and I'm not entirely decided on where the lower trend line should be. You can see I just sort of moved it there. I do think we have a little bit sort of further to go, but I think it probably more closely defines what we're seeing here. You may, I don't want to complicate these charts too much, but we may be seeing some sort of channel, you know what I mean, price that moves up and channel down, but it's quite steep. So I don't really like that too much. I wouldn't say it's just a channel. I think it is a proper down move. However, we've seen them on the way up here, right? We've seen 3 big bearish candles here that really made their way sort of low, and obviously the bulls quickly came and took them out, and I think we may see the same thing here again. So this one we'd be looking at some sort of dynamic support and resistance, right? This trend line coming into play probably in the next 2 or 3 days. Alright, you'd like some sort of strong closer bounce off there, perhaps a nice wick down lower, close above this horizontal support would also be quite nice, and then, you know, at least targeting the sort of highs back up here again. So a nice looking pair, nicely on the move, along with most of the majors. That's what I'm interested in at the moment. Sort of noticeably, gold is obviously quite interesting. We've got this gap here. I would say that the gap is closed. You probably would find a difference of opinion between traders, but I wouldn't really stress too much in assuming that that is going to have to close immediately. I think we might head down for a little bit. Let's see. I haven't been interested in trading gold at all recently. We've been seeing these huge gaps up, you know, with global tensions, I guess it is, but it doesn't really matter. The reasons don't matter for it, but not a very interesting pair for me to trade at this point. However, just wanted to point it out. I think it's showing a bit of the risk off moves that we've seen lately, right? Gold blasted through this level, you know, beautiful sort of buying up opportunity here, and blasted through this level, and I think it wouldn't be too surprising for it to really come back down and really test 1296 again. We're seeing a bit of dollar strength, especially in a few of the commodity pairs, so I wouldn't be too surprised, right, if we see a bit of buying at this point and potentially can trade it down. So that's what I'm interested in at the moment. If you have any pairs you'd like me to analyze and go through, more than happy to do that. Please do send through, and I hope you have a great trading week.